Ndị Igbo ekeneni m unu. Asị m na ya dịrị n'Igbo na mma. Anyị si ka nke onye chiri ya zelu. Dịka o si dị, ihe a bụ Eastern News 24 ka anyị si kpọtere unu ya bụ mgbasa ozi dị oke mkpa gbasata maka ya bụ ife na-ada na-akpọtụ na Naịjirịa and ife dị n'ala Igbo and nwere onwe ndị Biafra na-azọ n'iru akwụkwọ. N'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa, ewetara unu ozi site n'aka nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Sinetọ Abaribe nne ya. Ife a bụ ife o kwuru gbasata maka the fairness, equity maka ndị Igbo. The fairness and equity gbasata maka ife ndị Nigeria na-eme ndị Igbo and ihe budoro ife ji eme. Biko gee ya bụ ife ka njide na ya ebe a dịka unu ya gee unu ga-esi unu dropụra ife nche n'iru akwụkwọ gbasata maka ihe ndị a niile unu. All right, over to you, sir.
Abaribe, who's a senior member of the National Assembly and a member of the opposition APGA party. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you. So
Great to see you
always a
again.
pleasure to be here.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
What's your assessment of this newly minted cabinet from the point of view of your constituents and your party?
Well, let me just put it this way. My constituents, as far as they are concerned, nothing has changed. Secondly, if you go out on the street, because this time I'm going to say that my constituents are all the oppressed and all the people, they don't call it renewed hope. They call it renewed shege. They're in trouble. And we see it and we really don't know where we're going with it. I represent Abia South, part of the Southeast. And so the Southeast, we're looking at the changes. So what are the changes for the Southeast? You remove one minister for the Southeast, you replace with another minister. So what do we have? This President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria breaching the Constitution and going on as if it does not matter that he's breaching the Constitution. And
Meaning the reflection of the federal sort of spread.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely. Section 14.3 and 14.4 of the Constitution is very clear. It's also a mandatory provision of the federal government. And so the president has breached it for the past 18 months plus and does not seem to want to, because we thought that with these changes, maybe there will be some adjustments that will also put some balm on what is going on in the minds of people from the Southeast. And sometimes when I discuss with my friends in the administration, the first thing they ask me, you Igbos, what do you want? I want to tell everyone, what do the Igbos want? Fairness and equity, which is in the Constitution. That's all that we want. Treat us as you're treating everybody else. The Igbo ethos is Egbe bere, Ugo bere. Let the hawk and the eagle perch. Let no one oppress the other. Every Igbo person is imbued inside us. So anytime that an Igbo person sees that you're not treating him fairly, they come out. And so for the Southeast, as far as they are concerned, okay, you can change, but like the French say, plus ça change, plus ça même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Right. So basically, your assessment is that the Southeast has been shortchanged in this latest
From
reshuffle.
beginning.
Right.
From beginning. Okay. What does the Constitution say? The Constitution says that you have to have one minister per state. Now, from the Obasanjo government, they started having 42 because they have one for zone. But even President Buhari that did not, as far as we know, have any empathy for the Southeast, still gave one more minister to the Southeast. And so, but what do we have today? Just that 5 for the 5 states of the Southeast. So When our people say this is renewed shege, that means that we're even worse off than we were before now. And so if you're just going to give us only that thing that the Constitution stipulates for us, yet some zones, there are 6, have 10 ministers, some have 9, some have 7. You want to ask yourself, is it fair? Is it just? Is it equitable? If it's not, then if you now tell us, okay, you're doing well for us, we'll wait for tomorrow. As far as the Southeast is concerned, waiting for Godot.
Right. So the issue you have is that it's not whether or not there's one minister from each southeastern state. It's the fact that other states have more ministers.
No, not the other states, the zones.
Right.
We have 6 geopolitical
Yes.
zones. So you don't treat one geopolitical zone as if it's an appendage of every other one. That is just what I'm saying. And President Tinubu has the responsibility to make things right. So when you come in saying, I'm going to make things right, I'm doing things, and yet you still continue, I don't think that anybody will be happy with that.
How much political traction is the president likely to get in the southeast from the appointment of Bianca Ojukwu, who is the widow of the former Biafran leader Emeka Ojukwu, as a minister? Will that win Mr. Tinubu plaudits in that region, or will they just roll their eyes? I mean, she is actually, her husband, the late husband, founded the party that you're a member of.
Yes, of course. I'm a member of ABGA. She's also a key member of ABGA. But I think that she deserves to be a minister in her own right. But making her a minister is not meant for the Southeast. The point really is that, well, maybe those who are advising Mr. President are not giving him the proper advice. Like I said, what the Southeast want is say, do to me the way you are doing to others.
Right. So what would have satisfied...
You can give to her. She deserves it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
But that will not bring the Southeast to say, okay, because you have given to her, therefore, it has covered all the anomalies.
Right. So what would have satisfied you?
What would have satisfied us is, okay, fine. You have 50 ministries. You're sharing it by 6. What does that give everybody? At least each zone will get 8. At least. But then some are more, some are less, or at least each zone will get 7. Just like that. That will have now told everybody that you're even-handed. But when you even go beyond that, look at what Section 14.3 says. Section 14.3 says that you will have to run the state in a manner that does not show a preponderance of this from one zone. So what do we have today? The whole of the economy is in the hands of one zone. CBN, this, that, finance, everybody. Just check it. And so you ask yourself, is this what is contained in the Constitution? Section 14.4 also even says that you ought to do things so that you do not make others feel that they are not taken care of. So, as far as we are concerned, we don't think that they are getting it right.
You know, the problem that I notice in this country is that everybody has a beef. It doesn't matter which part of the country you... No, seriously. It doesn't matter which part of the country you... If you go to the north right now, they have... what you're talking about, how many ministers they got or whatever, is just, as far as I'm concerned, is completely irrelevant.
No. You just asked about the minister.
I know.
I'm dealing with that. But if you come to another area, I will also deal with that.
Well, let's go to another area, because, another area that people have a lot of problems with is the National Assembly, of which you're a member. In fact, you've been a member, that you're one of the, longest serving senators by today's standards.
Sure.
Or certainly members of the National Assembly.
Sure.
And for example, Bianca Ojukwu has just been nominated. Her nomination, along with the others, will now move to the Senate, where you work, for approval.
Yes.
Or, as some believe, to be rubber stamped, because many Nigerians believe that the National Assembly and the Senate simply rubber stamps everything the president does.
Well, let me put it this way. Every leadership of the National Assembly tends to stamp their own
imprimatur
on it. And so if the leadership today feels that they need to work closely with the president, then that may be what will seem to be like this. But don't forget one crucial fact. Most of the members of this 10th National Assembly were new. So they had not imbibed the ethos that we are actually a different arm of government.
Well, aren't they supposed to be given training and stuff?
Well, you get the training, but you get it by doing. I've stayed there for a very long time. That means I know I have had to. At the first time I also came, I think I was also feeling that, maybe this is not what you're supposed to do, maybe this, but that is exactly where we are. It does not necessarily mean that that is what every member of the National Assembly wants. Unfortunately, the Nigerian public does not realize that we also have to do things by votes. And so I may say no to what they like. But once it's
they'll override you,
once it's put to vote,
right.
and that I now take responsibility for even those things that I do not like.
Right.
Because
the majority carries the vote.
Precisely.
Right. Okay. I'm going to maybe come back to the issue of the National Assembly and how it's evolved over the years, because it's brilliant to have you here and to have the benefit of your experience. But let me return briefly to that issue of the cabinet. Beyond whether the Southeast or, the Northwest got the number of allotments that they were hoping for. Yeah. I mean, you just give me a broader picture. I mean, what does the fact that the president has been forced to reshuffle his cabinet within just over a year tell us about his judgment of constituting a cabinet in the first place?
I do not think that the problem is the cabinet. That is my own view. My view is this, that there are fundamentals that the president ought to have taken into consideration even before you constitute your cabinet and you decide this is your economic direction. Failure to deal with those fundamentals is where we are. So it doesn't matter who you put there. Put an Einstein there, he will still fail. And what are the fundamentals? First, we're a poor country, very poor, with massive debt overhang. What do you do when you're poor? When you come in and then you have to do something, the first thing you do is you cut your coat according to your size. But we came in, and the first thing is you bloat your cabinet, which means that the cost of governance is not going down. Everybody in this country expected that you should be able to shrink according to, even if you don't do everything, but at least. But now you have a runaway cost of governance. Everything is being given to everybody free of charge. We are buying new plane. We're doing all that. What do you expect? Those things must be paid for. What does the man on the street see? He sees you living in extravagance.
That includes you.
Of course it includes me.
Okay.
Yes. He sees you living, he sees you enjoying, and you're telling him things are getting rougher, and he's seeing inflation, he's seeing a cost of fuel, he's seeing the cost of electricity. So what do you expect? All you're going to get on the street is mass anger. So that is the first one. That's the fundamental. What's the second fundamental? So the president is firing every minister. He didn't fire the Minister of Petroleum. Why? Because what is the fundamental thing that we used to have foreign exchange? It's just how much oil we can produce. And so that should have been your very, very focus to say, how do we increase the quantum of oil that we produce so that, first of all, we pay off all the debts that have been borrowed by the previous government. And by the way, an irony here is that this was also an APC government that brought us to this point. And then we have another APC government coming. And that APC government is pretending that that was not part of its history. You see what I'm saying? So that fundamental, the second one, what are those things that we ought to do? You should deal with that. So when you leave all that, bring in 100 ministers, let them also be running around. What are they going to do? Essentially, once you're doing production of oil that is less than 2.3, 2.5, you're not going to do much. So you fall back to what? To debt. And then you borrow. And then you go on at the same time to say, I'm going to do massive works. Oh, I'm going to do Calabar to Lagos, Lagos to... Those things are very nice and very... But funded with what? So
although their argument
that is the point.
They're
So
only funding a fraction of it. The rest of it is being funded by private
you now see that
money.
the fundamentals are not right.
Right.
So you turn around and now say, okay, let me blame Mr. A. He was unable to do A, B, or he was... No, it's not them.
Yeah, but just, I mean, you make some very interesting points here, and you have a lot of experience in these matters. I mean, you were, for example, at one stage a deputy governor. A lot of people forget that before you then went into the National Assembly and so on.
Yes.
I'm not even going to ask you about your old chum, Ojus or Carlo.
Oh, that's my very good friend.
Now that both of you are
very good friends.
Both of you are in the Senate. I wonder how you get along.
Why not? We get along very well. We're no longer governor and deputy. We're now colleagues in the Senate.
Because, I mean, a lot of people believe that he masterminded an attempt to, in fact, an effort to impeach you, which eventually succeeded in pushing you out.
Those are what are some of the...
But based on your experience, extensive experience, what do you think informs these cabinet appointments? Is it sacrifice and service to the people, or is it personal and political interest? Because
personal and political interest. Don't talk about sacrifice. Because nobody goes to a cabinet.
Right.
With the president or the governor or whoever making an appointment will say, okay, who do I choose? Some people you want to choose on the basis of they have to be compensated. Some people you have to choose on the basis of one group needs to be given something. Some people you have to say, okay, I'm going to take this people based on their competence
right.
and all that. Those are the criteria that is used.
Well, the reason I ask you that is that I noticed that none of the former governors who are in the cabinet were touched, either through sacking or reassignment. I mean, the likes of Wike, Umahi, and so on. Some have suggested that the president needs them to help deliver votes for his re-election in 2027. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I can't speculate on that. That would just be speculation, and that's not the reason. My assumption is that as a president, the best for the country is what you need to do. And so if you find somebody competent enough to do the best job, then you take the person. It does not matter whether, and in any case, former governors don't deliver anything. Quote me, the people who deliver things are those who are right there with the people at their time. usually what people feel. It's just like me, if you go by those, this time has passed. How will I now go and say I'm delivering the whole of Abia State to him? It's not possible. Yet I may deliver my senatorial zone because I'm still a serving senator. So I do not think that should be the criteria.
Well, let's turn to that National Assembly again then, and to what I think is a very interesting topic, which is how that assembly has evolved over the many years that you've been there. I mean, you're one of, as I said, a few who have enjoyed the sense of historical continuity there. I mean, how do you think the National Assembly has evolved? How much resemblance does it bear today to the ideals that it aspired to when it was constituted in 1990? Is it a case of forward ever, or one step forward and two steps backwards?
I'll tell you one very, very short and interesting story. When Senator Chuba Okadibo, late Chuba Okadibo, was Senate President, I flew with him from Enugu Airport to Abuja Airport. And when we landed at the private wing, we came out and we met Solomon Ewuga and some ministers. After we exchanged pleasantries, I excused myself from him to use the restroom. I came out and I didn't see him again. And all of a sudden, his ADC ran to me and said, "What are you waiting for?" I said, "Please, they just told us that President Obasanjo was landing. And so I'm waiting." He said, no, don't. The President is already in his car and he's leaving. So if you stay here, you will miss. So I ran back to go and join the Senate President. And when I got in, I said, "Sir, I'm very sorry, but I was waiting because of that." And he said, "No, I am the head of another arm of government. I don't wait for Mr. President." He said so. And he went away. So now, juxtapose it with today. Is it possible for any Senate President today, when the President is coming, to say, "No, let me go away, I'm the head of another"? No. So you can see that from that initial time, there probably were far more I will say independence than today.
Right.
But throughout this time, you could see the reason also. An antagonistic National Assembly to which was what you had with the Obasanjo government, and so you always saw attempts to impeach and fights and everything, and mutual distance against each other. And it got to the point where I think the apex, or this was during the Saraki era, when there was really the presidency cut off from due to not bringing on board. But from the Lawan era, there was a decision taken also by the leadership at that time. Why don't we cooperate with Mr. President so that all these things can be a thing of the past? Which also happened. And from that time till now, we're seeing this
You've essentially become a cooperating arm.
Yeah,
of
a cooperating arm of the executive. So we also have a situation.
Would you say you're subservient to the
No, people just call it subservient. It's just that they are not used to this kind of cooperation. But for some of us who are also, I would say, old-timers, we also at sometimes advise that it's not everything that comes, that even if you don't want to do it openly, you go back and advise that this should not be done. Right. And I think that's probably what comes. If a Senate President probably gets a letter from the President and say, "We want to do A, B, and C," they may just go back to him and say, "Sir, maybe you may need to amend this, or before I come to read it on the floor." And maybe that is why it seems that things that are brought will go.
Right.
But when a president brings a minister, you really have to have a fundamental reason for you to say he shouldn't be or she should not be.
Right.
It's not because
so hence the taking
it's not because you don't
bow.
like the person, or because that's the president's choice.
Right.
It's his choice to say, "I want to work with Mr. A, Mrs. B," all that. And so most of them always pass through.
Right. Just briefly, before we let you go, to the burning issue of insecurity in the southeast and the latest sit-at-home order this week that crippled economic activity across the region, an order disowned by IPOB but still effective enough to have been obeyed by most people. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that what is going on is not obedience. What is going on is fear. People are saying, I don't want to be killed. And so because of that, because they do not know where whoever hoodlum on the street will come out and say, oh, you don't want to disobey. Because what has happened now is that all the purveyors of violence, all the criminals, all the hoodlums, all the people that kidnap everybody, are suddenly become IPOB. So every little thing you catch, oh, we're IPOB, we're doing that. Oh, and they take this type of thing. And then people just simply see that because they're not going to get enough protection, there's no way police or army can cover everywhere. And so what they do is simple. They wait, and when there's a vulnerable place, they just run in there, and then they shoot one or two people, and then they run away. And you don't want to be the person. So it's not compliance, it is fear.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. It's always brilliant.
Always my pleasure
Sharing
to be here.
the table with you and listening to you expand on all the great thoughts that you have. Senator Enyine Abaribe is a senior member of the National Assembly, a member of the opposition APGA party, and chairman of the Senate Committee on Power. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Ndị ba ngwadaluli nenu una afugoni fi nwanne nwoke bụ bụkwa nna anyị bụkwa ezigbo nwafọ Igbo ife okukasi n'elu akwụkwọ gbasịta maka ya bụ ife na-eme n'obodo anyị wee na-ajụsi ka ife iwere ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile. Sinetọ Abaribe Enyine ya kwuru n'elu akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa. Dịka ị na-esoyela anyị matakwa na ya bụ Eastern News 24 ka anyị si na-ewetara unu ya bụ ozi anyị si unu ka ewesị ya na ụmụnne m.